don't need to do that.
Have it, to have it.
Yeah, exactly. It was
Sorry.
It's good to have
routine.
it.
I guess we could, I guess we could
Mayor
do
hits
it.
the gavel, I stand up.
Okay, all right. Okay, first item on the agenda will be from the Law Enforcement Center, and I see Stars here to once again present the revised budget.
The revised budget. So I got it down to 7.88% is the increase for the city. We cut out a generator. Now we're going to try and get the generator that we have working to its full potential. I can't think I cut out a couple of corrections employees. We cut out. I cut out everything that I possibly could, I guess. I don't know if you have any questions for me.
You said you cut out 2 correction employees?
Well, I had budgeted for 4 additional,
Okay,
so now we're only doing 2 additional, which would bring it to 5 on staff each shift.
LEC staying the same as last year's. The rent.
That helped.
just right.
How are this is off our subject, but a couple of the other ones, like Nelson is 23.5%. Do you think you're gonna be able to float that?
When we asked them at the budget meeting, they said yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
everyone said they
Or at
were,
the LEC meeting.
we point blank to ask them.
Okay.
They all were, did the county say yesterday at their meeting what there's,
I was not at their meeting yesterday.
okay,
I know that Eddy County met yesterday and approved it.
100%?
Yeah, I mean, you probably have one of the toughest budgets there is, in my opinion, and like I say, hopefully there's something in the future changes a little bit, but if you get some of those non-local incarcerations, hopefully that'll free up a little cash
Right.
to do something. Just hate to have to keep kicking it down the road, but I guess it wasn't part of it, but if you whittled it down to 7.88, that's a considerable improvement from where it was starting at, I think.
Right.
What did it start at, Star?
9, what, I don't have the paperwork.
I don't
It
remember.
was 9.8 something.
Oh, okay.
I know that in all, I've taken about $700,000 off of the budget.
Yeah, 'cause it was like 1.4
Yeah,
million or something was what that, it went from 4.3 to 5 point something or another.
right.
And so do we want to approve them one item at a time, Spencer, or do we get to approve it all at once when it's
I would just,
all said and done?
yeah, I think if you just approve it as, I don't know what Star needs on her end, but if you just approve it as a full package in the preliminary budget from on August 7th, which is this coming Monday, we're gonna hopefully the commission will approve the preliminary budget and set the public hearing date for September 19th. Between those 2 time periods, you can't increase the budget, you can only decrease. And so at least from the city's perspective, if this is the threshold at the max, and then we still have, you have that interim where you can reduce expenses. However, I don't know what Star needs on her end, and all these other counties are also working on other timelines, so.
Also, just so you're aware, we did receive a quote yesterday for our health insurance, and it is going up 12.98%.
What did you have figured? You had that figured, right?
I had 8%.
8. So that's gonna increase it, so.
Yeah,
And there again, I think sometimes I just gotta say it out loud to talk it through, but typically you budget for maximum policies for all the employees. So I mean, even though if they're going up 12%, realistically, it's probably gonna come out in the end.
right.
I mean, so it's not, because you budgeted enough in there, you know, not everybody's, okay,
Right.
all right, so more of an FYI then.
Yeah.
Another quick question before where are we at on that joint powers agreement? Have you talked about
I know
it?
that Howard has been in contact with the city and the state's attorney. He's waiting to hear back on if they're going to deed the building or whatever, and that's the last that I had heard, and that was last week.
Okay. 'Cause talking to some of the attorneys, they're pointing fingers.
Yeah.
I just wanted to see, looking into the joint powers here, I just wanted to make sure that that's still being pushed.
So we don't, no action necessary right now, not till Monday?
I will say currently with our budget right now, and I know we haven't gotten to it yet, but these numbers are incorporated in the general fund projections, which does not include any mill increase from last year's mill levy.
So we're able to do it.
So at least holding steady, and we'll see, you know, the conversations that manifest today between now and then, because I know we have a couple of other folks here, that we should be able to put forward a recommendation, and I wouldn't suspect that recommendation is going to come with an overall mill increase from the city, which includes this as a part.
Well, I want to thank you. You know, it's been tough to, get everybody asking you to cut here and cut there, but
Right.
we appreciate your due diligence, and 'cause I know how it's got to be tough to.
Anything else?
Yeah, I'm okay, I'm
Okay.
okay with it at this point. I don't foresee anybody asking it to change it.
Okay.
What about, is it what you were hoping for?
Well, we went down, I guess.
Yes,
We
that's-
went down.
yeah.
I mean, I have other thoughts of how I'd like to see it, but
Yeah.
I don't think that's realistic. So I guess for now, what,
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you, Star. Okay. Next one on the docket is Lake Region Public Library, and Maddie, if you please come forward.
Yes, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So in the, I believe it was the second page of the agenda is our, once again, slightly revised budget. In taking away another full-time position that I was proposing to add for next year with the hope that, maybe in 2025 or, hopefully not too much further down the road, that can be a reality once we address some building needs and get some other things in the works. And so the excuse me, the personnel list that is included in this iteration would be the remaining 2 full-time positions, myself and the assistant director. And then the part-time positions would include a children's librarian, what we would designate as a teen librarian, and then the equivalent of 2 full-time circulation positions, which is split between several part-time employees. But when we're open for 50 hours a week, we need a couple more than just one full-time circulation person there. So I welcome any questions.
Members of the commission, I just want to say thank you to Maddie for we've worked in that interim like we told you we were going to. We kind of came to the conclusion that, when you do the full-time position and you incorporate the health insurance on top of it, it makes it unsustainable long-term. And so we're trying to work from that, that full-time to a part-time, and then you don't have to put forward the health insurance. It still is going to require that extra mill from the 5 to the 6 to make that happen, but it's more sustainable long-term, and you don't roll the dice with every employee that leaves. And if at 6 mils, given city code and consultation with the city attorney, the city then is maxed out on the mils that it can contribute to the library via its city code. So working, so Maddie will know now, she's kind of at the max revenue, at least from the city. And I know you're talking about the county as well, moving forward. So she has an idea of long-term projections. And I know they have plans to work with their library foundation on strategic planning and whatnot. So
Mhm.
not to steal too much of your
Not
story,
at
but I'm
all.
trying to.
Not at all.
Anything, Rob?
Good.
I'm good. Well,
Thank you.
thanks,
Great.
Maddie, for
Thank
working with
you.
Spencer
Thank
on
you.
this, so thank you. Next up, Chris on the UAS team, the drone team.
Good afternoon.
Something new?
Little new, little
Yeah,
old. Just coming to the city to see if there's a possibility for funding of the UAS team. I have a packet in front of you guys. Basically just shows what we've been up to, what we've been doing, hours and mission areas and times. Just starting with some flight info. We have logged over 500, almost 550 hours of flight time since the development of our development of our team. And there's just a graph on that behind that second page. The second page, or the second stapled sheet, it may not be stapled in your guys' packet, is just a lot of the main locations we do fly. There's not every location, but just the main ones where we're putting a lot of our effort forth.
what's a Series 2?
Series
On the very back page, you got Series 2. And then we've, Devil's Lake's at 21 flights. So is that,
The color coding.
was that related to,
Oh, on the graph,
on the graph?
each color, it just indicates what our aircraft is. So the first aircraft is in blue, which is actually retired. It's not serviceable anymore. The orange one is the aircraft we use obviously the most. And the gray one is the third aircraft.
You have 21 flights in Devil's Lake. What's that? What kind of flights? Is that training flights or is that?
No, that is actually mission flights. So that's fleeing suspects. A lot of the UAS team, of course, is for officer safety or general public safety. So we do help with SWAT, help with RPD, our sheriff's office, task force. That's just within the Devil's Lake parameters, I think. Also did work, I believe that was with FBI, on a house in Devil's Lake, without getting into too much details. But
In the time frame, is this like a 1 year time frame then, or? is
it's
it-
a little bit more than 1 year. It's a year and a few months.
Do you get any funding from the St. Michael's area for?
We're working on that. Yesterday I went to Benson County. Benson County said they would submit 5,000 a year. We had to work out some a joint powers agreement, and hopefully we can do a little bit with the tribe. That's another.
What are your expenses?
So far, we've been really, really cheap on a lot of our expenses. Just keeping operational right now is our main concern. We got donated two vehicles. One is 250,000 mile vehicle. It is on its end of life or getting close to, but mainly it's just a lot of gas, insurance, getting some stuff for the team to keep us operating, especially when the calls keep coming out at all weather types. I'll just put it that way, all times. I sent Spencer just a little list of certain things that we're looking at in the really near future, and they come with really big dollars. Two of our aircraft are no longer serviceable. It's just like a computer. After so long, they're going to have an expiration date. So did they get the?
Should have it.
Okay. So I'll just kind of go through with it. One of the big things now, especially on the UAS side, is being a blue UAS. Blue UAS indicates that it is cleared by the federal government. So you can, we actually, when the girl became missing at Grand Forks Air Force Base, we were stood up. We were ready to go deploy. Because it's a national security thing, we had to make sure that our drones actually make that list. Currently, they do not. They would allow one of our drones, one of our aircraft to fly over there, but that's why we're looking at the blue UAS stuff. They're not cheap. I worked really close with the Grand Forks team guys, and some of the blue UAS stuff is finicky. A lot of the government stuff is, but
Built by the lowest bidder.
correct. But these are some of the current ones we're looking at really close in the future, and that's why we need as much help as we can, because we are truly an unfunded team. So,
And that's all includes, like it says, the training, time,
yep.
everything. So you got to pay the.
Well, the top part's the aircraft and the accessories. You get down a little bit more towards the middle, towards the bottom. The trainings, some of the stuff, I would love to send a lot of the other guys to these trainings, but they're, as you can see on the one in Texas, is a really great training institute, and it's $975 a person. It gets spendy, and that's not airfare or lodging. So
With their instructors, do they travel to other locations to teach, or is it only in?
this particular one is only in Texas. There is a Florida company. I've been trying to get up here. We don't have the demographics they're looking for. They're looking for metro areas. So they're like, maybe Minneapolis. Again, we're traveling.
I was thinking, we did kick in 25,000 at one time for an
Yep.
aircraft, I think, didn't we?
Yep.
Okay, is that one, is
purchase,
that one still serviceable, or is that?
that one's still at serviceability till 2026, I believe, or 25. I'd have to double check on that one. That one I think will continually be serviceable for a little bit longer. And most of them, the shelf life of the warranties and everything expire. And then if we can just keep either adding accessories until like motherboards start going out, then that's a whole other story. Just to quickly go through, I feel a page going through. Some of the other stuff we really need or would like, and hence why we would ask the county and Benson County, including you guys, is to get more of our guys trained. I would love to have a lot more training available locally, but again, it's a lot of travel. So,
What's the license renewals run? I mean, is that for each individual aircraft or?
it is. It's relatively cheap. The biggest thing now is we applied for beyond visual line of sight. That's going to take a little bit of training and licensing. Basically, you're flying an aircraft without seeing it. Kind of like how Grand Forks Air Force Base does it.
Speaking from some of the PD and stuff, they really rely on this a lot when they go out.
And
It's just for their safety and the safety of the community.
if I could, I was talking at National Night Out, and I have a gentleman here. If you guys would allow him to speak, he just wanted to say a few things on behalf of the UAS team. Do you
Sure.
guys, if that's okay?
Yeah, sure.
Rich?
Step to the podium if you would and identify yourself.
Thank you. My name is Rich Juarez. I'm a Ramsey County deputy assigned to the Lake Region Narcotics Task Force. Assigned as a co-coordinator right now. I do have a few handouts for you that I did type up.
All right, yeah.
So the first letter with the letterhead, we conducted an operation. This went through the county commission. We conducted an operation with all the agencies listed below, and a big part of it was criminal interdiction and narcotic interdiction. Some of those are the stats. They're not the full stats for different reasons. We didn't put all the stats in there. But the one paragraph at the bottom about the UAV team, I'll tell you from experience, it is unbelievable in my line of work that I can sit in a comfy, cold car watching a criminal house dealing narcotics, watching the screen, deploying an officer to go stop them, opening up an investigation. A lot of people know our cars, they know our faces, and with the availability of the UAS team, I'm completely eliminated from the conversation. The anonymity is there. Surveillance is just, it's unreal what the UAS team is able to do for us, the PD, the SO, the highway patrol. They make my life anyways a lot easier and safer, especially with everything going on in the United States. I mean, we had it there in Fargo. I know a UAS wouldn't necessarily apply to that situation, but these are the kind of people that we have in our community. And when we go into houses, we have vests, we have shields that can only do so much. With the UAS team, we're able to really expand that tactical operation, the advantages of that, and plan a little bit better. So the second sheet is just some safety stuff. We can read through it. I can talk from experiences, but the UAS allows for safety of law enforcement during high-risk operations such as search warrants, arrest warrants, pursuits, fleeing subjects, and pre-operation surveillance in rural and city areas. Believe it or not, it is somewhat difficult to do those pre-surveillance operations in the city of Devils Lake. There's a lot, plenty of times I've parked at places and I get called in as a suspicious person. I don't blame them. I do look suspicious sometimes. But with the UAS team, we're allowed to, we can sit at our office, right? We can sit, or with them, we can sit, watch that house without ever moving, without ever having our identities revealed, in a safe environment. Once we see that car going, now it's go time. We deploy a patrol officer. We're able to stop that car. And it gets into it a little bit later in this paper sheet that I have. But it eliminates us from the situation. And now to these criminal offenders, it looks like a normal traffic stop. A normal traffic stop without us involved. We're able to be involved behind the scenes, expand our investigation. But one of the interesting numbers is the UAS team has allowed us to utilize them heavily. In paragraph 2D, we can see the number there in the amount of drug seizures approximately that we've taken from the Devils Lake and Lake Region area. I think that's a significant number. And I think with more funding for the UAS team, more availability, more training, I think we can double that. I mean, honestly, I think we can really make an impact in our community with this. The biggest thing, in my opinion, is the safety. We're not having to be out there. Speaking from experience, I've conducted surveillance hours on end at nighttime. And when people walk up to your car, it's an uneasy feeling. It really is. And with that eliminated from the picture and the UAS team assisting us on a continuous basis, that could be a life saved. It really could.
This might sound like a silly question, but if there's a drone hovering above your house, isn't that the same as having somebody sit in a car almost?
So they have some different capabilities. I think Chris can talk about it, but it doesn't necessarily have to hover right over. It can hover a few houses down. I've been below the drone, and sometimes I don't even notice where it's at unless I'm really looking for it. And a lot of the times, people aren't regularly looking out their windows for a drone. Let's say they're looking out for our cars. They know what our cars look like. They know what we look like. They're looking for us. So to answer that, I don't.
I've had one hovering over my house, so now I might know what it's about.
Under suspicion.
Yeah, and I guess
And I've noticed it.
It depends on the elevation, I suppose, and the angles, things like
I've
that.
seen it in Operation Dale. We were flying over top of they showed me the stuff that they've done to look at the top of the buildings out here. and even those snow piles and things, the distance that thing can see from and can, the picture's amazing. It's,
Yeah, just
Yeah.
something rolling through my head.
Yeah, and some other things covered on here is fleeing suspects. That's a huge part. I've utilized them before when suspects have fled. We're able to sit up there with the thermal camera and say, "Yep, that's probably him," instead of 20 law enforcement officers walking out in the middle of a blizzard or something. We eliminate all that, and we make the operation a lot quicker. Same goes for crash investigations. I'm sure Chief Kanowski knows from crash investigations with the Highway Patrol. They might not have had the UAS back then as heavily, but I've seen it used in fatal accidents where the drone will go up and basically paint a picture of that roadway, able to show in relation how far away the car was from the non-passing lane, things like that. I've seen it used in that application, and it is very nice. The different applications that it can have. I think overall, what I'm trying to get at is we can read through all this, but I think the tactical advantage that it gives law enforcement and the safety that it provides all of our law enforcement officers is very vital.
So what's the bottom line?
In my
We haven't
opinion,
seen that.
in my opinion, I think
Oh, okay, all right.
I think the funding should be there from every city or county that we operate in. And I am currently trying to get a UAS license and be a part of that team, but my schedule is a little conflicting with how busy we are. But overall, I think the funding should be there. I support the funding. I wish that there was a way that I could fund it myself because it's amazing. I think, Chris, you're asking for too little. No, I'm just kidding. But I think the funding should be there. I think if we want the safety of our officers, if we want these criminals off the street, this is going to make it a lot easier.
Should this be something that should be run through the police department budget or,
Yeah.
you know, or what's your thoughts on
If
that,
we-
Spencer?
If we did, that's where we would probably put it. Yeah, I think the big thing from the cities is, where is the service being taking place? Is it in town? Is it out of town? And I think, and I've told Chris is to see the buy-in from the surrounding communities first, like you talked about, Spirit Lake and Benson County and Ramsey County and whatnot, to see that buy-in, so that we're not the primary lead on it, which I don't suspect that we would be. But I would just be interested in a few questions I have. How are you guys governed? Do you have a board? And it's a 501 nonprofit, I'm assuming.
We just fall under the county wise, yeah.
Okay. So who do you guys report to? You have a board?
We have a
Or is it the
board,
county?
yep, and then above that is the county or the sheriff and the county.
I just,
So, and I can work with I could probably work with the chief on, getting a little more granular on how specifically much the Devils Lake Police Department does use it and find an appropriate number that we would feel would be appropriate.
I just believe, fellow commissioners, mayor, that, when we were trying to, people were talking about fighting crime in this town and things of that nature, and we can't put a dollar price on somebody's life. In this drone system, the team helps to save lives. And I think that, what they're asking for is not this obscene amount. I'm not coming here asking for 100,000 a year, It's just my opinion that I think it's a good step for the city to show our support of that, and people will see that we're serious about helping to fight the crime in this neighborhood, in this city. So my recommendation would be that it would be,
And it was $10,000 a year.
Yeah.
I was overlooking that when you were showing me
Yeah.
your document.
Rich,
Yes.
you guys, when you guys do cash seizures, could you split any of that money with UAS? Or does it
That
have to
would,
go specifically to law enforcement?
yeah, I don't know exactly. It would be up
Probably
to the board.
does, but
I would imagine, and the actual coordinator to discuss that.
because they're part of the operation, so
Right.
I don't see why.
Well, see, some people get paid and some don't either, right?
on the team.
Currently, that is correct, and that's what we're really trying to get more buy-in so we can actually pay our guys that are just volunteering.
'cause-
with that.
you know, some are free and some are,
Correct. Make it more of a legal across the
Well,
board
yeah.
once you make it.
How often does your phone go off in a day for something like this? I mean, say in a month's time frame.
So at certain times, it all depends. Some weeks are super busy. Actually, we were called out for deployment last night. There was a silver alert getting soon to be initiated last night from Cass County. They pinged your phone. In the location, it is utterly 5 miles square of cattails. And that was her last home ping. Amazingly, she turned up back at her house and Ken there. So we were at the sheriff's office last night, ready to be deployed, but it happens regularly. It's usually at night. Whether it's his team or somebody else, it's usually a suspect's. A couple of law enforcement guys know at night, first thing they want to do is run.
So Chief, it's not just for criminal activity too, it's used for other, I mean, is there
Well,
other?
If this is my opportunity to talk, the UAS team is an integral part of it, and it's definitely a force multiplier for our department. There's no doubt about that. We use that a lot of times when you're talking about fleeing suspects, it's way after the fact. You know what I mean? The guy's running, we chase, we can't get a bird up in the air. That's not possible. That's hours later. Surveillance, yeah, we use them for that. And for a SWAT asset, we use that for UAS thing. We were talking about using it downtown at night, driving it around, see if that's even a possibility, and see if it's even worth it. But we can take, you're talking about the money and all those kind of things. We already contribute. We bought that bird. The city bought that. We contribute two of our pilots, and we pay them. So whenever they go out, they get paid. So those are probably the ones that do get paid. So we do our part. We really do. And I don't think you've ever been denied anytime you came in here money. I don't know. I don't know what the number is. That's completely up to you guys. But our SWAT team, we don't get money.
Mhm.
There's no line item for our SWAT team.
it's like do a fundraiser type thing,
No, it is,
You know,
but
they're-
that takes time. Don't
It
talk
does,
about
yeah.
that. And it takes a lot of effort. And
Trust me, I
and
know.
it's a brainchild of one of our guys. So God bless them. But with that being said, not to say that we'd want a line item for our SWAT team because we got money for that already. We got an opportunity for that. The number, I don't know. It's up to you. And I don't know, what's this blue thing about? That's a lot of money. Do we even need that here?
Yes.
Why?
Federal lands. If you're to capture
But if you were Devil's Lake, let's say we're talking about Devil's Lake City.
city structure, you guys had, I guess, I don't know if is there federal lands that touch city proper? Or are they extended extraterritorial?
The only I can see is maybe close to the airport. And that's it.
That's probably,
Mhm.
Yeah, and the fire department probably can use it more too, but, that's just my opinion on the
Mhm.
matter. So,
It just adds another tool to your officers and your operations to do your job.
right,
It's untying certain aspects of your hands where you can actually go out and use it.
yeah,
For
I would
lack of
agree
a
with
better way
that.
of saying
I
it.
would agree with that, yeah.
So
So-
remember when there was a question, the conversation that I kind of had with Chris, too, over the phone is, whether it's, the continuing ask that they're asking for, right? Or it's those, the one-time bigger expenses that they can come, right? And I would just say that from the city commission standpoint, that if we do make this contribution, at whatever level, that, that we'd be a little bit more reserved on those big one-time asks if we're giving the organization the money to operate. That needs to be on them to manage the money well to purchase the things that they need. when they need it and in a way that's responsible, which obviously they would aspire to do. And so I would say that that would kind of just put to rest some of the bigger one-time ask come-ins that they in the future if it was a reoccurring.
Where do you operate out of now? Do you sheriff's office or do you have a storage for that?
We have the Joint Training Center. I'm sure Sean just talked to you guys about that.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So our one unit is stored there. We have some equipment there. Some is in my office. It's kind of everywhere.
I guess what you had just said about having an annual allowance instead of a come every other year for a larger amount of money seems to be a reasonable thought. And so do we let you guys talk it through and
Work out the
I
details.
would support it, like say, you just gotta figure out the dollar amount, what you think we can afford.
And I know that, the commission will be able to give their view on, the next item, safe alternatives for abused families. So we're just, we're late in the game here, right? And I'm working hard because as we go through rates and fees, we're going to make some moves on some rates and fees, which will have to do impacts on some utility bills. And so we're really trying to keep the property taxes, flat or lower. And right now we've got a plan in place where we are able to reduce a full mill from the city. And so with this and then also safe alternatives, in the next 3 days, I can try to come up with a plan that keeps it at that. Like I said, it'll just take time to work it out and try to do our best to do that if that's what the commission wants to see. So really that's because that's my, to bring forward that solution where we're going to make some moves on the utility side of things that we want to keep the property taxes, the effective rate the same or lower.
What would all be your fair amount that you would be?
I guess I'm all supportive of the program. I mean, I know what, I believe in it myself. But I guess,
So
see what others are authorizing.
Whatever they
to.
work out.
Yeah.
10,000 doesn't seem unreasonable.
No, I'm not, it doesn't take much to spend 10 grand in that world,
So yeah, we'll work in the interim and between all the competing factors, and whatever, I'll try to come up with some numbers for both that, or for some numbers that are palatable to the city that we can accomplish our goals that we want to see on
Right.
general fund side of things.
Because I see a lot of uses out, south of town. So,
Yeah.
what are we getting funding there too? But, I think if we can fund with multiple agencies, it's gonna,
I
Pretty good budget.
understand that too. I don't want to, if somebody else ain't gonna do it, that I don't want it to be our decision not to because they're not putting any, that's just, we gotta make sure our law enforcement's taken care of and as a city.
I don't believe
crime-
any of us are against it.
Oh, no, I know you're not. I'm just saying. Did you talk to Ramsey or Benson? You said you talked to Benson. Did you talk to Ramsey County at all?
Yep, Ramsey County. I met with them last year when we were really trying to get this program rocking and rolling. And I asked for 30,000 from them on an annual basis. We met this year again, and it sounded like the same thing was in place from their prior motion. So I think the bigger use is we're getting more out in the country, or the county, excuse me, than locally, and hence why the ask is different on those levels.
Mhm.
And, it'd be really hard for Benson County to pay a substantial amount due to their tax basis as well, so.
I
Thank you.
would just say on the not touching Devil's Lake so much and down south comment, a lot of the issues in Devil's Lake can derive from that out-of-state traffic going south of town, or it's going to flood into Devil's Lake eventually if we don't stop it. That's where the overdoses come from. It's not big, intricate criminal drug dealers here in Devil's Lake. It's the ones that travel from out of state and they set up shop south. They set up shop in Grand Forks. They come here. Just to make that a little bit more clear, is that Devil's Lake, I think, benefits a lot from it. So.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate the time.
Thanks, Rich.
Thank you.
Okay. We have a representative of Safe Alternative Abused Families. I'm sorry, I don't have your name.
Melanie DePazis.
Melanie?
Melody.
Melody, yeah.
Okay.
I had submitted a letter requesting any type of donation from the city. I believe Rob also did a letter of support in lieu of SAFE. Did he submit that?
Johnson. You're talking about Rob Johnson?
Yep.
Yeah.
So as you see, in 2022, on the letter of all the statistics that we have worked with, and then I had done a current number from January to June 30th. I just want to explain that actually I did another statistics from June to July 31st, just to show that increase a little bit. So our crisis calls we've answered is 276. Shelter bed nights, 1,667, with 13 families being placed in shelter. We assisted 93 domestic violence victims. We've done 16 sexual assault victims, which 8 of those had forensic medical exams. And we did 16 presentations with 304 participants with that. All our services are free except for the offender treatment classes that we provide for men and women. There is a charge for that. We do supervised visitations and exchanges, support groups, forensic interviews with 4-year-olds and older, support groups for children, teens, and adult women. We provide forensic medical exams. We're the only one in the state that is a community-based sexual assault program where we do the actual exams in our office setting. We have a food pantry, a supply closet with hygiene products. We do crime victim witness advocacy, which we work with our state's attorneys in the 6 counties that we service. We provide the domestic violence, sexual assault advocacy. We're all certified advocates through Rule 34 of the Supreme Court of North Dakota. We provide emergency shelter for up to 30 days and then transitional that is up to 24 months. We also do protection orders and sexual assault restraining orders. We're not allowed to do domestic or disorderly conduct restraining orders.
Everybody gets housed in a hotel, is that how I understand, or?
We have apartments
Okay.
that we're housing them in. The reason why we had to go to apartments was due to COVID. We had to do something with the overflow. Our house shelter, we could only provide half of the housing. And then, so for the overflow, we went to hotels and apartments. As everywhere, can't find any staff to stay at the house shelter. So we have apartments that are under surveillance security for 24 hours a day in a secured locked building. And then we place them in hotels as well for if they have any disabilities, because it's not handicap accessible for the apartments that we have. So then we put them in a hotel.
So will that house, I thought I talked to somebody that said maybe the house will be sold at some point?
We did sell the house just in June, end of May. We sold the house. Yes,
And you own these apartments, or do you pay rent for those?
we pay
apartments?
rent for the apartments. We had 5 apartments we were paying rent on, between $600 and $700 a month, and we've gone down to 2 apartments now.
Costs a lot of money.
Mhm.
Wow, we have to have a facility like this. I mean, it's
No doubt.
important to our community.
Do you guys do anything with mental health or anything like that, or do you stay away from, is that a part of your counseling?
We have counseling services that we provide free, and so Dr. Jocelyn Soderstrom is the one we contract with for that. And then if she feels that they need like more mental health through the Human Service Center, or while we're working case management with them, we'll refer them to that mental health facility.
That's a big problem in today's society, is the mental
Yep.
health aspect of it.
Mhm.
Your 5,000 you're asking for?
Yes,
Is that for the year?
for the year, yeah.
Mayor Mo, members of the commission, I think like the UAS team here in this next couple 3 days, I'll try and see what we can do to accomplish our mission on both the property tax side as well as make contributions to these critical and beneficiary organizations that do a lot of good work in the community. So we'll try balance all that and bring forward plan the best I can.
Okay. That work for you?
Mhm.
Okay. Anything else? Anybody have a question for Melanie?
Nope. Thank you guys for what you do.
Thank you.
I know some people that have actually taken part in this. You saved some lives. So. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Next item is rates and fees review. I guess Spencer.
Mayor Mo, members of the commission, just going to go through some of the rates and fees that are associated with, specifically the enterprise budgets and the revenue projections there. For the rates and fees, when I give numbers as to what the projection and the increased revenue would be with these rate changes, and what those are based on for the water and sewer revenue projections, they're based on the per month averages between January 2021 to June 2023. And then the sanitation projections reflect the month averages for January 22 to the present. And so on the water side, going to recommend an increase from 340 to 350 per 1,000 gallons of water. That'll bring in an estimated additional revenue of 35,000. And like I said, we'll go through the enterprise budget so you can see why these rate increases are needed. And then the sewer rate, going to recommend adjusting it from adjusting the base from 1390 for 3,740 gallons to 1490 for 3,500 gallons. Mike, can you just give them a rundown of the 3,740 and the cubic feet and how we started measuring our water differently, and that's where that number comes from. And we're going to recommend just changing it to that round number of 3,500.
Members of the commission, what we had before, the old water meters, we based everything off of 100 cubic feet, right? We weren't using gallons at the time, so 100 cubic feet, the equivalent of 748 gallons. So everything was based off 100 cubic feet. And when we replaced our water meters, we went with gallons. People understand 1,000 gallons. They don't understand cubic feet. And so we adjusted some of our rates and fees to coincide with our new water meters. We hadn't adjusted our sewer yet, so now everything's going to be in terms of thousands of gallons, and we'll make the adequate adjustment.
And also too, we want to make sure that our rate per 1,000 gallons aligns with the base fee. Meaning, if you use 3,500 gallons of water, that 1,490, we want our water rates to reflect that number. And so, in addition, so increase the base from 1,390 to 1,490. And adjust the rate from 395 per 1,000 to $4.25 for those sprinkling and non-sprinkling months. So those two changes will bring in an estimated $70,000 in revenue. With these changes, our water and sewer rates combined are among the lowest in the upper Midwest. I mean, we are.
Oh, we're so cheap, it's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Yeah, they are very, very low. Even so, because I looked at the 2022 survey, and even with these changes, we would be like the second lowest in the upper Midwest, North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota area, excluding the Twin Cities. And I would assume over the last 2 years, other places have increased their rates as well. So we're making the moves on there. And then sanitation, we're facing some revenue generation problems, as well as we have a number of new employees that are on more expensive health insurance plans and those sorts of things. And of course, we've seen cost of living increase, price of fuel, those sorts of things. So a few changes on the sanitation side, adjusting the can service from $8 per can to $9 per can, increasing the residential and commercial dumpster charge from $11 per cubic foot to $11.50 per cubic foot, and then increasing or So the residential and commercial dumpster charge from $12 base to $12 per day. So if your commercial dumpster gets picked up multiple times a week, instead, if you had your dumpster picked up once a week, you pay the $12 base charge. If you have it picked up 5 times a week, you'd still only pay the $12. Well, we're going to change that so that if you go there 5 times in a week, you have to pay that base charge those 5 times. And in talking with Mike, we feel that that's a good fee, or it's a good cost of service adjustment, because they do spend, the truck has to go out there. It might even be for one dumpster, right? And so recommending an increase there, and then 5% increase to the dumpster and compactor rentals, construction roll-off fees, a trip fee from 80 to 85, and then 11 to 11.50 per cubic yard to stay consistent. The construction and roll-off, those two changes amount to a 5% increase overall, if you look at the roll-off sizes and the changes. Adjustment to the garbage pickup base charge from $20 to $22 per month and $11.50 per cubic yard. The inert waste from 7 to 8, and then municipal solid waste compacted from $27.50 to $30 per cubic yard. And big question: what does this mean for your average residential utility bill? And so, putting in the 2023, if you have one can in front of your yard, you're a household member, you've got one can. You're looking at a 5.46% increase when you include the water, the sewer, and the sanitation. If you're got 2 cans, it's 6.11% increase. What I'll say is, so between 2021 and 2022, the city, overall utility bill probably increased about 2%. From 2022 to 2023, it was about 2.5%. And in that time span, in just 1 year, there was 9% inflation, with fuel being the big cost in some of those. And so we are playing a little catch up, specifically on the sanitation side and the sewer side. And to be frank, we'll probably have to be playing a little catch up in 2025 and 2026 as well. But like I said earlier, we're trying to balance the utility rates with the property tax the best that we can. So I would welcome any questions on there. I think we've got one, and the only other change is just a building inspection, or permit fee, I think. Residential
Mosquito
permit
fee, that stayed the same? That's really not going up or anything?
We've been working with this year. All the money is staying in there, so we'll
Yeah.
have money available if we need to do additional mosquito work next year, even additional aerial spraying. We could do that.
And streetlights, that fee's still not on.
Yeah,
this.
so the fixed fees, they include the mosquito, the street light, the water source replacement, curb stop replacement fee, which all totals $15.50.
Okay.
So
Oh, that's the other fix then, okay.
that's the $15.50, yeah.
Gotcha.
Sorry, I should
All
be
right.
more specific with that. There's any questions before then, I can go into the enterprise fee, which kind of completes the story with the rates and the fees. Just to
Anybody have any questions?
want to make those moves.
Okay.
So on the water side, just to run down the equipment purchases, fusion machine for 8,000, a gate valve wrench, sorry for the typos, gate valve wrench for 8,000, traffic control signs for 10, flatbed trailer for 30, 2 pickups and a half bed trailer for 105, a mower and humidifier. So all but the traffic control signs and the humidifier will be offset by the water equipment reserve.
Gate valve wrench. Come on, that's what the guys are for. What the heck is that all about?
We're trying to implement a valve maintenance program, and so it turns into a lot of turning.
Mhm.
We put in all these new valves. We want to make sure that they're exercised.
Just-
And so to get people to do it, if it's electronic,
That's
it
how you
seems
build
to
these.
Not nowadays.
You build the wrench a little wider at top. Remember, Joe? We used to do it 2 guys in one.
I know it.
It's all about safety.
All those guys are about 60 years old.
Okay,
Um,
sorry.
And then on the sewer side, if there's no more questions on the water side, water's sitting pretty good with that slight change. Depending on the collections per year, you just never know if it's dry or whatnot. So should be okay on the water side. On the sewer side, the equipment purchases, a van for 55,000, and then a small jetter, which is going to cost us $200,000. And we're going to take that 50% out of the sewer operations, and then 50% out of the storm sewer. And then there's also a $12,000 flail mower, which I put water treatment plant. I meant embankment. So staff report. And then just an increased operational expense. We're going to put an extra $20,000 for a total of 40 for the realignment of some manholes around town that utilities wants to work on. One of the things that we saw with sanitation department was an increase in cost for equipment, and we know that we have some expensive equipment to include this $200,000 flail mower in the sewer department that we're gonna have to buy over the next 5 years. So trying to make sure our depreciation kind of matches our needs. One of the things that we're gonna do also here, I hope over the fall and winter, is much like we give you guys a capital improvement plan, I want to give you guys an equipment replacement plan where we have this marked out over 5 years and we come to you guys with a plan so that we can make sure that we're laying the groundwork so that when we have these equipment purchases, they don't hit us as unknowns and whatnot. So those depreciation expenses for sewage treatment, 26 to 30, depreciation sewer, 20 to 24, and then an additional $20,000 for the equipment reserve, as there's the new sewer truck, which is going to be over $600,000 soon. So trying to work up a plan to pay as much in cash or finance or whatnot, whatever we have to do. So we'll be able to get more granular and more detail and lay out some better groundwork over the next 3-4 years when we do that equipment replacement plan for you guys.
The only question I have, and I don't think it's even worth the breath, maybe the rural water partners, open them a little bit. That's not going to be an issue, is it?
It's all outlined in contract. It's just the notification has to go out in advance.
Yeah, we'll send the notification as far as the water. That's water, right? So
Water, yeah.
we tried to keep it 50% of what our rate is in town here. So if we move it from 340 to 350, we want to move it to 175.
Yeah, I don't foresee it. I just figured it's mentioned it. I can't imagine that they're getting by pretty reasonable already. I think.
Yeah, and if you look at the budgets, it's all justified. For whatever reason, the way it works out, they're not responsible for any costs associated with their distribution expenses. They're responsible for costs associated with the well field and the water treatment plant. And the way the numbers have always worked out, it turns out to be about half the rate. And that's continues with the budgets that we're looked at again this year.
Whenever I can move on to sanitation, whenever the commission. Okay. As far as sanitation, just to kind of paint you a picture as to why we need some of the rate increases on the sanitation side. Right now, revenue is down so far relative to last year for roll-off rentals and special pickups. Hopefully those pick up, but if they don't, we'll have a little bit of a shortfall this year. And in 2021, 2022, we received an average of $70,000 in recyclables. Recyclables market has changed, and we can't count on that 70 grand either this year or next year. I know Corey's trying to work with the vendor. Do you want to maybe just give an update on what you're working on the recycling side real quick, Corey?
Well, last November, the people we worked with since '94, since I've been here, it was a pulp mill out of Minneapolis. And they took all of our cardboard, all of our plastic, and then they brokered all of our other recyclables. Well, they shut their doors last November. They got scooped up by a bigger company or something. And the company decided we're not going to open this. So we lost everything we had worked up with the recycling, the sale of it. And so since then, I've been trying to get another supplier or another company to take it. And I finally found one out of Bloomington, Minnesota. It's a corrugated cardboard pulp place. They'll take corrugated cardboard and make pulp out of it and then make something new with it. Where the other Westrock, the company we were with before, they were a paper mill, pulp mill, and a corrugated cardboard. So we could, we had a big store or a big place to get rid of all of our stuff, and they were paying us for it. Well, now working with this company out of Bloomington, I finally have it where I'm waiting to get my first shipment of cardboard sent their way. But now we got to refine things a lot. they got this stuff, it's called carrier stock, basically pop bottles or pop can containers and beer containers. They call that carry stock. So it's made where it resists water. You know, basically carrying around a 12 pack of beer. If the box gets wet, it retains its shape and all that. Well, this new company don't want any of that. Well, we got everyone in the city, you know, accustomed to getting rid of it. So now we got to start re-educating everyone to have cleaner cardboard that's just corrugated. And I've been doing that and you know how hard that's to do, you know, to retrain people. But I've been doing this for the last 6-7 months, and we have about 4 or 5 loads of cardboard ready to go, but now I'm just waiting on the shipping. But then at the same time, last November, when this plant shut down, the Chinese stopped buying recyclables from the US, and that's like 95% of our recycling stream goes to them. They were buying all of it. And now, you know, with the relationship we have with China now, I don't know when it's going to change where they'll start buying it again. So basically, we haven't sold, I don't think we've sold a dime since last November. And I'm hanging on to it. You know, you get everyone trained on how to recycle the community, and you don't want to change it because that really disrupts everything. So we've been conducting business as usual with it. And I don't know if you've noticed outside our shop, we got about 500 cardboard bales. Well, you hate to, you gotta try to do
There's no
something
use
with it.
for them at all, is there?
See, that stuff has all that carrier stock in it.
Yeah.
And the company I'm dealing with, they said, well, let's establish good loads with corrugated. And then maybe we can slowly start filtering some of this other stuff in with the loads. You know, we could accept.
You have to redo it and undo it and redo it?
No, it's just, there's so much work to it, you know, a lot of labor.
Yeah.
Thank God for Lake Region Corp. But I also don't want to give up on it and just throw it away either. I mean, we pay $60 a ton tipping fees to go to Grand Forks with our garbage. So can you imagine if we'd put like 1.4 million pounds of recyclables back into our garbage to go to Grand Forks. So if you do all the math on that, I mean, if people stop recycling completely, it'll be a big expense. But we just got to start getting more friendly with the Chinese again, because they were buying up all of our recyclables all the time.
I'll approve your out of town travel.
So I think, so as you can see, we're, some things have changed. There's like, so that's 70 grand in revenue that we can't count on anymore.
Which over the years, we counted on it being low, you know, not in the black so much, maybe in the black, but break even. You know, because we have Lake Region Corp, we contract, what's their contract, around 100,000 now?
Yeah, right about that.
For their services. And of course, they supply, you know, jobs to a lot of their clients, and it's kind of a good deal. But we're trying to do what we can, but I'm just giving you a heads up that it's kind of a tough go at it right now.
As far as, other increase too, so, fuel costs, they've been up 80% since the 2021 levels, right? And we tried to budget the best we could for 2023. We need to continue doing that, right? And I don't think we made, given how new and fresh everything was, we didn't make probably some of the adjustments we should have made last year. And so we're trying to do a little bit of a catch up here.
It's went up 10 cents. Fuel went up 10 cents today again.
Another day?
And so,
Fuel just went up 10 cents again today.
So it's 369?
and so, you always think about, hey, how can we be more efficient and those sorts of things? Well, when you got those garbage trucks, they gotta go pick up the garbage, right? And they gotta drive to Grand Forks. So it is what it is, a little bit with the fuel costs, and then plus, increased personnel costs. We've had a couple new folks in the sanitation department and whatnot. So also too, equipment purchase, you're gonna get a new truck and packer. For
24, yeah.
Yeah, in 2024 for, and we're looking at $300,000 cost. Originally, we were thinking about 250. And so you can, the cost of equipment's going up. And so as part of that too, we want to increase our depreciation from 75,000 to 82,000. You got to think that's $5,000 a year, 10 years, 50 grand plus 2,000 for a future increased cost. So the other thing we have to look at too is the landfill reserve. We're gonna have to make some moves at the landfill here pretty soon. And we've got about, it's about $1 million project, and we've got like 250 stashed away. So we're trying to do the best we can. And at the end of the day, we want our reserves for our enterprise, above 25%. Right now we're good on water, and we're sitting at projected about 29% for sewer and sanitation at the end of 2024 with these revenue changes. So we'd welcome any questions on that end. And I think it's important to note, just from the conversation we had yesterday with Congressman Armstrong's office, we talked about providing government services, and people would talk about property tax. We talked about picking up the garbage and the water coming out. The garbage and the water is all fee for service. So, and 20% of that revenue goes into the general fund. So as the revenue increased on the enterprise funds, they also increased on the general fund side because of that transfer. So ready to just hop into the general fund real quick once you guys are ready. Water source replacement, business as usual with that. We're earning interest at $157,000 projected next year, given the CDs that we have, and we send a third of it to water's equipment reserve, a third of it to sewer, and a third of it to wastewater. So, and really, at the end of the day, we can, wherever we need it in the water and sewer department, we'll make sure that money gets there.
Okay. Any questions? All right.
Real quick, just the general fund, really not a whole lot different. And the plan that we have, you look at the total mills that we were looking at heading into today. Last year we were at 93.11 for a total of 1.88 million, and we're looking at 1.90 million for a full mill reduction, right? And so $15,000 worth of ash just came in, and there's your mill, right? So that's what I mean when I'm trying to say when I go back to the drawing board, because I would really like to, given the changes on the utility side, to get this on the general fund property tax side.
Would have been nice.
So, and plus we don't know what's coming for health insurance. We've got budgeted 5% increase, and we're hearing, I've heard 10 some places, I've heard 7 some places. We're on a self-funded plan, so we're completely different. And I've even been asked for the rate, and the actuary so that they get to us as soon as possible. So that's what we have there. A change in projected general fund revenue under expenses of 184, and the one-time expenses we've got 75,000 for siren radios. The one-time bonuses 71,800, and then I changed the to 51,000 for the assessing data restoration efforts. So would welcome any questions you guys have on that. And I would say last year was 41% sales tax revenue in the general fund, and this year recommended 41.75.
Any questions? I guess we're doing our part to keep everything down.
Yeah.
That way the other agencies will do the same.
And I would add, to that, as the city, we have a lot more tools in our tool belt than a lot of other entities around town. Thankfully.
Even with the increase in the LEC, if we do that fully and this 15, we're still kind of breaking even with that. We're still not doing too bad. I mean, considering we've had to pick up some huge increases.
I want to thank you guys, and like I said, if there's a way to do this process better, where you guys get the information in a better format, just please let me know. We're always striving to meet the needs and the wants of the commission in regards to making sure you guys have the information to make good decisions.
I think you made our job pretty easy, Spencer, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think you did a real good job, because last year you had a little help from Terry, did you? Maybe not help, but Terry was here.
I'll be frank. I mean, you guys know the frequency of which you guys had received finance reports when I got here. And so to try and create a budget when you don't have that was quite an experience. And so it was a lot of mirroring what the previous budget was. And so we're able to be more targeted, precise this year.
And just your demeanor it feels like you're a lot more confident in what you're doing,
Yeah.
and so I have faith in you.
I see how,
We're counting on it.
That should be a compliment.
I see how all the pieces are interconnected now, a lot better than I did on the first month.
Yeah, that makes it a tough month.
Well, if there's no more items for the agenda, for the commission, I will adjourn the meeting.
You guys don't even get free food